But for many, that wasn't enough. And they took the only route available to them. Escape to the cities, to the north, to where there was no legal segregation. And where the streets seemed paved with opportunity. Frank Bird worked for the Federal Writers Project in New York City. He chronicled the life of the black urban population there.
It all began because of jobs. Back in the war years, there was a need for cheap labor in the factories. And the news spread like wildfire throughout the Southlands how there was money, good money, to be made in the North, especially New York, the Wonder City, the Magic City. New York. The name alone implied glamour and adventure. It was a picture to catch the fancy. So these strong black Negroes came north in droves. It was the greatest Negro migration in the history of the United States. In the early 1920s, 200,000 of them came right here to Harlem. One small section of Manhattan, 50 blocks long, 7 or 8 blocks wide, and this place was teeming with life and activity. This was the Mecca of the new Negro. I tell you, this was the modern promised land.
Harlem remains a mostly black district of New York. From the early 1920s, Harlem taught America that blacks weren't dependent on whites. They could thrive without them. This was the message of the Universal Negro Improvement Association, founded by the brilliant and eccentric Marcus Garvey. He called for black Americans to grasp the future on their own terms. Black banks, black businesses appeared. And a cultural explosion, the Harlem Renaissance of poetry, literature, jazz. Frank Bird recalled later the rent parties held each week in the Harlem tenement blocks.
You see, Harlem was a typical slum and tenement area, no different from many others in New York, except that in Harlem, rent was higher. The white landlords living in ease on the profits. Everybody's thinking, how are we going to pay the rent? And someone got the idea of having a few friends in as paying party guests a few days before the landlord's monthly visit. And the idea just took off. Every Saturday night, you could tell from the pink glow in the windows, there'll be plenty of pig feet and lots of gin. Just ring the bell, come on in. Musicians, loaded on homemade corn whiskey. This was Prohibition time. They're beating out the rhythm. And as the band gets hot, the dancing gets hotter. Wild movements silhouetted in the semi-darkness. And once in a while, these pseudo-artistic young Negroes, the upper crust, the creme de la creme of the black Manhattan society, would wander into one of these parties and gasp or titter at the untutored Negroes, who apparently had so much fun dancing about to such wild, abandoned music. After Prohibition, the rent party went out. It became a thing of the past. It was too dangerous to try to sell whiskey once it was legal. And with its passing went one of the most colorful eras Harlem has ever known.